Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I want to share some relatively quick Christmas or holiday themed tags. There's not going to be anything Christmassy about them per se, except for the time of year, and if you celebrate Christmas you'll probably interpret them as Christmassy. But anyway, I have this neat and tangled stamp set called Holiday Baking, and this is what the full stamp set looks like. There is this bear that I'm going to be using for my tags, but there's also a lot of other smaller images, cute little bird, bunny, and mouse, and I've colored most of them, so I'll show you after I'm done with this initial bit of coloring. I'll show you what some of the other images look like colored, and I'm not going to do full coloring right now, but I am going to start coloring the bear, talk a little bit about how I colored the bears since I will be using them. Now, recently I started taking an online Copic coloring class just because I feel like we can all certainly work on our skills all the time. I feel pretty comfortable Copic coloring. I like what I do when I Copic color, but I do think that there are room for improvement. I'd like to maybe work on adding more texture to certain ways that I color and whatever. So anyway, I am taking a class by Kit and Clowder, and they have monthly classes that are pretty reasonable rate, so I was happy to see that I could learn a little bit about critter coloring for under $20. And I will leave you a link in the video description below, as they have the monthly class right now on critter coloring. And so if you watch my channel, there's a good chance you like critters just because I work with critters a lot. So I will leave you a link to that. And they do have a rewards program, so if you do decide to sign up, mentioning my name would be helpful, as I think they have some kind of, like rewards for referring people. But that's not why I'm mentioning it to you. I'm mentioning it to you because I've, started coloring the class and I've already learned a lot, but I don't think it's so intimidating that you could not pick it up as a beginner. And I think that taking online classes is a great way to learn more. So here what I'm doing, and this is something that I picked up from the online class, is I'm starting with the darkest color. So they mentioned in the class that you want to start with the darkest color because it wastes less ink. It's kind of the cheaper thing to do. And to me, well, that's a great idea because obviously Copic markers and Copic ink is relatively expensive compared to some other craft supplies. Like watercolors are a lot cheaper than Copics. Now, once you have Copic markers, the refill inks are much, much cheaper. And I do own a lot of refills. But if I can save a bit of ink, that sounds like a good idea. So they say start with the darkest color and blend out, because you'll go over layers less and less, so that not only will you save ink, if that's, not so much your motivation, you'll save time, which I think is an excellent motivation. She also recommended what I always have done, which is the flicking motion, not for everything, but just that idea of going to the paper pretty lightly and moving the ink around in that way. So there's going to be a lot of tips and tricks like that in the class. So I started with the E19, I'm blending it out with the E15. I'm not doing anything crazy sophisticated with the shadows. I'm mostly just kind of thinking about cast shadows, like where his leg meets his body. There's going to be a shadow from the leg onto the body, and so that's why I chose to put the E19 there. I also find that it's not so much about having perfect lighting, just having some shadows makes a huge difference versus having none, and making sure those shadows are deep. like really significantly darker color, and I have started forcing myself over the last few months to go darker in my darkest areas than I initially feel comfortable, because I find that having those deeper shadows just emulates more the coloring that I've seen from other people that I really, I like their coloring. And so I find that deepening those shadows is one way to make my coloring look more like the coloring of the people I admire. So if you're struggling with that idea, I would suggest trying out the deeper shadow thing. So like there, I went back at the very end with even more of the darkest color, and I could do that in pretty much any area. Like when you think you're done coloring, come back and add just a touch. You could see I was barely touching my marker there to the surface, and that deepened the shadow and, you know, just gave a little bit more life and dimension to the bear. So I would continue to color out the rest of the bear in this format. As you might have noticed, I try to tend to work in like a smaller area at a time. I'm not going to cover the whole bear in the lightest color or put all my shadows for the entire bear. And part of the reason to do that, part of the reason I do that, is because I don't want my Copic, the ink that I've laid down, to dry too much in between, because it makes it harder to blend. So if I work in a small area, the marker's still wet and I can blend it. As you see, I don't cap my markers in between. That's, you know, kind of because I'm filming and I'm leaving the marker caps up there to remind you of the colors. But honestly, even when I'm not filming, I do that too. I don't keep taking my marker caps on and off over the course of an image. I've heard from some other people with a lot of experience with Copics that you really don't need to keep taking them on and off. Like, you're not going to really lose much ink to having them open, and the amount of time that you're going to spend taking the caps on and off as you switch through colors is just not going to be worth it. As I mentioned, like, the dark to light thing is about saving time and ink, and I think saving time when Copic coloring is important, because a lot of people feel like a lot of people that I've heard of, you know, messaged me, etc., say they just feel like it just takes such a long time. And it certainly does. Like, you know, you might not want to take this much time to color this image, especially because I'm about to put it on a tag on some baked goods. And realistically, they're just going to throw it out. That's fine. I'm doing this because I enjoy coloring. I find coloring relaxing. So I'll color the rest of that image up later in the future, but I wanted to move on to the tag. So as I said, I'll show you some of the images from the set all colored up. And something that I like to do, if you follow me over on Instagram, I'm jess.crafts, and the link is always in the video description below. I will zoom out there. Hopefully I've been coloring in frame this whole time, or this video is useless. So there's a little bear all colored up with the E19, and just lay out some of the other images. So I like to, once I've colored up a whole set, when I purchase a set, I stamp out every single image, and I try to color it, you know, as soon as I have time. And then I like to lay it back on top of the stamp set, just to really give me an idea of the complete effect of the stamp set. Somehow having it colored just makes it even better. And then, you know, I take a picture of it to share on Instagram, but also just for my reference, just so that I can, you know, be more inspired by the set. So there it is, all laid out. That's what the whole set looks like. And then I'm going to come back and I will show you how to do the background. So normally I work on a grid mat, but right now I'm working on my Ranger craft sheet because I'm about to do some messy techniques. Here I have some Strathmore watercolor paper. Nope, Canson. I have Canson XL watercolor paper. This is the rough side. this is the smoother side. I'm going to try to use the smoother side today. I've sort of experimented with this technique. We'll see if it works the way that I think it's going to based off of my experiments. So I'm going to take a stencil from the Tangled. I think this might be called the Starburst stencil. It'll be linked in the video description below, but it's another Neat and Tangled product. As you probably know by now, I am a huge fan of Neat and Tangled. I'm constantly getting some of their newest releases. I love their stencils. I think they create some really pretty stuff. I particularly like Elena's, I think it's Elena, or Elena, maybe. Sorry. I just think she makes gorgeous, gorgeous stamps. They're just so adorable, and I really enjoy coloring all her little critters. She did the holiday baking stamp set there with all these cute little critters. So I am taping my stencil to my tag, and I'm doing this because I'm going to start coloring in between. I don't want my stencil to shift too much. I am using Frog Delicate painter's tape. I find a lot less issues with it in terms of it ripping. You wouldn't have to tape your stencil down, but I think with the technique that we're going to do, there's the chances of the stencil moving are a lot greater than average. So I'm coming back to distress crayons. I'm using them today because when I used them on a different distress video, someone mentioned like there's just not a lot of tutorials out there for them, and I found the same thing. So I just thought, you know, a lot of us probably did purchase these, or maybe you got them free recently from scrapbook.com since they were giving away some, and you're probably like to know what to do with them, like what are some fun things, techniques, etc. So, you know, there are some other videos out there, and there's a lot of similar ideas of how to use them, but I just thought I would use them again in another video because I don't know, I definitely fall into that category. Sometimes I buy something and I use it once to make something really cool, and then I, you know, haven't touched it in a while, and I want to get back to it. So hopefully this is interesting to you if you have distress crayons and you want another idea of how to use them. Now, these are actually new to me, these metallic distress crayons. I had the basic set for a while, which I think included colors like Seedless Preserves and there's a pink color, this set that I picked up at my local Michael's. And I really thought the metallics might be even more fun for techniques, so I picked those up at scrapbook.com. And as you see here, I'm just scribbling the different metallic colors through the stencil. I started with Antique Bronze, and then I went to Brushed Pewter, and now I'm going to finish up with Tarnished Brass. What I did find is if you're not a big online shopper, although I always do leave links in the video description below, and I 100% appreciate that you guys click those links because they're affiliate links and they support me, or they're sometimes affiliate links. These distress crayons, you can get quite a large selection at your local craft stores, and that might be better for your method of shopping or your budget. And so I like to be able to show you some things that you don't have to go to an online store if that doesn't work for you to pick them up. All right, so I've scribbled it through, and this actually could be a really cool technique, and I'll just show you what it looks like. Like, you could just have that as your background, and that's really pretty, and it will eventually set like that as distress crayons do dry, but they also are water reactive, so let's take advantage of that property. And this has like kind of a firework look to it, so I think if you were recreating this card for 4th of July, that would be great. I think this would look gorgeous on a New Year's card. But you know, today I'm just I wanted to pick something that I thought went well with the bear, and I liked how the the Antique Bronze matched up well with the colors that I chose for the bear. Take my distress sprayer, any sprayer will do. Hairs, you know, like ones you get at the drugstore or the grocery store. The spray water is fine for this technique. And I'm going to just move the color around. Now, I may have sprayed a bit too much water, or it may be because I am working on watercolor paper, because the last time I tried this technique I was using regular cardstock, and I'm finding that I'm lifting quite a bit of color here, which I wasn't doing the first time. So when I first tried out this technique on cardstock, I wasn't lifting as much color. So if you feel like you're kind of picking up too much of the color, maybe try just a thick white cardstock instead, or try a little bit less of the water spritz. Also, seems like some of the colors are just not picking up as much. I felt like I was picking up a lot of the pewter. I'm picking up a lot of the, sorry, I don't remember all the colors right yet. Tarnished brass, a lot of it's coming up, but the copper color, or the, yeah, bronze color, sorry, wow, not good with colors today. The bronze color wasn't coming up as much. But now I've sort of spread it around a bit, and it will leak under the stencil. It won't be like a perfect stencil image because you've activated with water, and Distress products react with water. But when I lift it up, it looks pretty good. There's actually not as much spreading as I got the first time with other colors, with the non-metallic colors. So I'm quite happy with that result. I think it's just an interesting background here. And I'm going to just speed up the drying process a little bit with my heat gun. Although ideally, I would say you probably just want to set it aside and actually let it dry for a while. But when you get your paper wet, your tape is even more likely to tear your paper. But here with the frog tape, it's coming off without tearing anything really nicely. So I 100% recommend that frog tape over anything else. I've tried micropore tape, it rips my paper, washi tape rips my paper, but this is what I've had the most success with. And now that it's a little bit more dry, I just want to kind of move it around in the light and hope that you can see how there is all that glimmer and shimmer and sparkle in the background. And here's what my little bear would look like on it. Now I do want to add a sentiment, and you can stamp over distress inks as far as I know, but I just want to make sure that I get a nice even clean stamping. So what I'm going to do is just stamp onto another piece of paper and lay my sentiment across. So I've just used my strong adhesive to adhere down a sentiment. I could just cut a little white strip of paper, stamp the Bake with Love from the stamp set. And I'm not going to put anything in the hole at the top just because I know that the little baggies that I bought to put my baked goods in come with the twist ties. So I'm just going to put this through the twist tie to keep it simple. And you could always write a little message on the back, a to from, a happy holidays, whatever you want to say. Finally, I did just want to mention, while you can totally buy pre-cut tags, I did use this die set from scrapbook.com, and another reasonably priced set of dies. You can choose to put the holes in them or not, which is kind of nice, and it saves a little bit on the production cost of the dies because the hole is separate. So they don't have to use the metal for each one. It helps keep the cost down and means that you can choose a small hole or a large hole. So I like that option. And as you can see, the smallest tag to the largest tag is quite a dramatic difference. So it's kind of like the only tag set you'll ever need. So if you like making little tags, this would probably be a good investment versus, you know, just a, like in the past, I'd only had like one tag die that came with a larger set, and so I could only make one size of tag. But now I have that set, and I just find that I never need another tag unless I want some kind of special detail. All right, so that is my project for today. I'm going to be making a few more of these and tying them up on some Christmas packaging. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafting tutorials, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Oh, this is also going to be part of the Neat and Tangled Little Tangles challenge, where they were asking for you to make like gifts. And so since I'm going to tie this on to a gift, I think that works well for the challenge. So yeah, links in the video description below, and thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day. Bye.